Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So in this video, I'm going to talk about the 5 books that I read so that you don't have to. Or maybe in some cases, you most certainly do. Now, the books in today's video are categorized into 3 categories. The underrated ones, the foundational ones, and lastly, the frankly disappointing ones. All the books mentioned in this video, all 5 of these, are not trending on BookTube, not there in Book Talk, and I've in real life seen very few people actually talk about these. Even maybe I wouldn't have bought them if not accidentally, or if I wouldn't have like their covers and stuff. So these are like the books that are not really famous at all. So let's see if these books deserve the kind of hype they never received. So the first book we are going to talk about is Rajmohan's Wife by Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay. And this is a very small book of 150 pages. This was written in 1864 and was the first book written by an Indian author in English. That solely is a reason for all of you to go and read that book just to know what the first book read like. And honestly, I was not at all disappointed. I loved the plot. It had a great rising action and a great climax. A lot of themes were ticked, like the life of women and their struggles back then. There was a theme of dacoits, which was very interesting to see how that goes by the end. And there was also themes of longing and extramarital affairs. Now, we can't really put a right or wrong label to the extramarital affair I just talked about. I think if you read the book, you would know what it is trying to kind of indicate or symbolize, because the writer never really just tells you if it's right or wrong, or if you should think it's right or wrong. I think he does a great job into letting you know the whole dimension of the situation, and it's up to you what you want to believe and think about the characters, which is again a great thing. Now, I rated it 4 stars because I could not give it a 5-star, for there were several not so serious conversations where a lot of formal words were used. That kind of killed the vibe for a while. I think that was an okayish reason, because let's be real, there were no Google or ChatGPT to help them. So it was just through his knowledge and through his understanding that he wrote this book. Greatly appreciated, but that was the reason why I did not give it a 5-star. And I think another important reason could be the one-dimensional characters other than Matungini, our main lead. So yeah, I would have preferred more light on other characters like Konakshi and stuff, but it's still okay. Now, since I forgot, let me tell you what the book is about. Sorry. So the book is about Matungini and her villainous husband who plans to... Would that be a spoiler? I don't think so. So her husband is a proper villain, if we can call it, and he is trying to put dacoits into work to get all the wealth from her sister's husband. Now, she has a greyish bond with her brother-in-law. I called it grey because it's not black and white and it's somewhere in the middle. So we don't really know at first what is happening, but as the book progresses, we get to know what happens, and if the plan was successful or not, who were the dacoits, and what happened to their bond, and if anything changes, and what will happen by the end. Will Matungini be back with her husband, who is a very, very bad guy, if I have to put it that way, and if she would take a step apart from the women back then and do something that will kind of change the outlook of the society forever. That is Rajmohan's Wife about. Matungini, if you did not understand yet, is the wife of Rajmohan's wife. 100% recommended. Go into the book thinking that it's the first book written by an Indian author in English around 1800s. So please don't go into thinking that Shakespeare is writing it or something like that. That would be like a better way to experience this beautiful fictional masterpiece. The second book we are going to talk about is Farah Bashir's Rumors of the Spring. Now, this book is set in Srinagar 1990s, and it kind of encapsulates the terror attacks that happened during that time, and they keep happening, and how her girlhood was influenced by these attacks. The book is a very beautiful memoir type writing, which I am personally a huge fan of. The writer did a great job into enforcing different everyday life happenings and comparing it to what was actually happening in the socio-political scenario of Srinagar back then. I love the heartbreaks, the silent heartbreaks in comparison to the huge turmoil that is happening outside their houses and their places. Several chapters end with very depressing scenarios. Uh, the book is very visual, if you have to put it that way. Like, I most certainly remember how in a particular chapter a kid is killed, or the kid's father is dead. Maybe it was a gunshot and he's dead, and the kid is crying because he does not know what is to be done, and he does not even understand if that his father is already dead. These are the beautiful points in the books that are delivered beautifully, that kind of gives us an understanding of what actually happens to the normal people living in that particular area during that time. It's a very good book. I gave it a 4.5 stars. I did not give it a 5-star because I am very particular about my 5-star books. Now, I don't know if I will ever read this book, so that is the only reason why I did not give it a 5-star. And also because the book was written in a form of the writer who is thinking about these incidents, and she's as of writing, so it's like fogs of her memory. So it's like an episodic book, and we don't really get a linear storytelling. It's episodic, that one thing happens and then the next chapter it's like about 6 months later and stuff. That is the only reason why I did not give it a 5-star. Otherwise, it's a beautiful, beautiful read. I would recommend every other person to go and give this book a try. Okay, so the third book we are going to talk about is Music to Flame Lilies by Megha Rao. Now, this is a very interesting book. It has magical realism to some extent, which is a very interesting take, and this was the first book I read with that trope. So, this book is mostly about Noor, who lives far away from her home for her studies. Now, one fine day, she receives a message from her childhood best friend who is dead for months now, and then she can't shake off this feeling that it is her best friend that is asking for help, and maybe she is alive. And that was the sole driving force that pulled her back to her village. And now that she is back, she does not really relate to the life there, because it is almost like those folklores about magic, uh, black magic and stuff, but not like proper mention of black magic is given in the book, but we do get an idea that it is not one of those uh, sacrificial mantras of pujas and stuff. It is relating to something darker, something not normal, like we don't see normally. Now, this is a very interesting book. It also has Kalki, if I'm not wrong, because I read it a long time back, who is the best friend's sister. And Noor does not understand how everywhere she goes searching for her best friend, she somehow finds her brother lurking in that area, and that makes this very eerie. And there are a lot of things happening, a lot of findings, and a lot of spooky events. I think that book would be a great Halloween read, or a very suspenseful winter read, even a dark rainy day read, like not like dark romance books, but like the books where you are kind of at the edge of this seat and you're like trying to understand what is happening and this new world is unfolding. This book itself is written in a very fast forward, effortlessly, beautifully written way. And yeah, it was very easy to read. That was like the best thing about this book, and I did not have to put much effort into understanding the world there, because it was explained very properly at first, and then later the world building was done beautifully, so I did not really have to put my mind into it. And also it's a very small book, so you can't really put a lot of things into it. That was the reason why I gave it like 3.5 stars. I think that would be very great, because it's not that deep, or you don't really think about it long after you're done. But I think I gave it 4 stars because of the ending, and I really loved the ending because it was something that I was not expecting. Alright, so now I'm going to talk about the most recent read and the reason why I planned to shoot this video, Escape from Kabul by Ekanshi Sengupta. Now, I have a lot to cover about this book. Firstly, if I had to read it, I would rate it not more than 2 stars. No hate towards the writer. I love you and I know you've put a lot of effort into writing it, but let me explain why I think I will not recommend it to people. First of all, the writing. I think it's my analogy that if a class 10th student would write a book for the first time before giving it to the editorial team, the first draft, it would pretty much sound like this book. So many cliche and cringy dialogues where it's almost like you're dragging the conversation. It's not what we would talk in real life to our friends or family. It was kind of, it cringed me out at times. The structure of the book, I feel like personally, there was no rising action, no climax, and just the resolution. That was it. Like, every chapter that went by, I kept expecting that something would happen now, something would happen now, something very drastic, and something that would kind of like completely blow my mind would happen. But nothing like that did happen, and it was like a flat line leading to the resolution, and we finally got the resolution, and I was not really happy at all with the resolution, whatever happened. There are 5 ladies in this novel. I will talk about the synopsis later. 4 ladies leaving Kathy. All 4 of them have this strange victim mindset where I understand a lot of bad things are happening with you people, but they are so victimized in this book. Like, there is no, uh, like, there's no fight inside them that is left. If I understand, if it was there for 1 or 2 characters, then it would have been like, okay, they've been through a lot, and the author is trying to show us different mindsets and how people do not react to situations the same way as other people would do. But no, most of the characters in this book had this victim mindset, and they did not really want to actually strive for what they are trying to um, make happen in their near future. And the only girl that I thought was actually relatable and who actually had that fight within herself was Kathy. And somehow she was oddly villainized in the book. I did not really like it. Other than that, I did not really idealize any of the characters or anything that was happening in the book. Every chapter I kept thinking something will happen, nothing did. I think the first part of the book, there are I think 3 parts in the book. The first part of the book, I thought that it was all about backstory. So I thought this was the least interesting thing that is happening here, and then the actual event will start. But turns out that was the only interesting part. I really enjoyed learning about their pasts, and that actually made an impact in my mind about the characters. So for me, it was like a 2-star read. I do not recommend this book. Alright, so the last book that I'm going to talk about is one of my most favorite books ever. It's A Mirror Made of Rain by Naheed Firoz Patel. Yeah, I was seeing if I pronounced the name right. Okay, so I have a lot to talk about this book. This book is about this girl from a comparatively higher stature of society, and I think most of the middle class or lower class people, the people like us, we think that maybe the higher society people, maybe women there, lead a very different life than we do. But it turns out not really. I think in the book it is shown how women go through so much in so many scenarios, and it is the society that keeps changing roles of each woman, and how it is the woman who has to fit into the container. The book does a very beautiful job of showing a girl's life through different stages: when she's a student, when she's of marital age, when she's married, and after pregnancy. I think these 4 stages were very beautifully explained by the writer, and there was this beautiful mother-daughter dynamic explored in the book. I think not many people talk about it, and especially people with issues with their mothers and how they grew up in their childhood. I think it's a very beautiful understanding for them, and even for us who don't really come from that background. We understand how a human mind processes events like the ones that actually took place in the book, and how with time even the most complex walls within us breaks, and we actually let in our emotions and feelings, and how life itself is a movie in its own. So many things are happening in this book, and so many dimensions of being a woman is described. It is a very, very beautiful book, and I read it at the ripe age of 15. And ever since then, I have been recommending this book to God knows so many people. and I'm glad that I could make 3 to 5 people actually buy and read it. I hope more and more people read this book and give this book a try. And the title itself, A Mirror Made of Rain, it's so symbolic in the book. I really enjoyed it, and I obviously gave it a 5 star. Like, these are the kind of books I think about every other day. These are the kind of books I give 5 stars to, by the way. So these were the 5 books that I have at least not seen people talk about, and I had read it, I had bought it. I also have a few other not so famous books in my bookshelf, but I've not really read it yet, or I have saved them for a part 2 if it ever happens. So that's that for today's video. Thank you guys for watching, and maybe we'll meet again on some other video.